Oh, never mind. It's working now.
Okay, bet. Yep, we good.
Didn't actually mean to do that. So Zoom and YouTube should be.
Let me see, I'm gonna refresh on my one. Yeah, say Lost Confederacy is live. We just gotta I guess change the
Yeah, I'll do that now. Okay.
let's see.
Here.
Bear with
Okay.
us, y'all. What's going on there, Willie?
So we should be good now.
Yeah, we live right now. Just get for the recording.
Do what? I'm sorry.
For the recording, the Zoom should be some yeah, the record button should be next to the share.
Next to the share.
And we be good to go.
At the bottom.
Yeah. Should next to the
record on this computer.
Yeah. Because it should either record on the computer or it's probably going to record to his actual Zoom account.
Record. Okay. Okay, so we're good.
Yep. Hello and welcome to the Lost Confederacy channel. This is week 5 of the 13-week fiscal program of recovery for American prisoners of war. You have myself, Chief Biko, and today we have Chief Quietwater. As always, we focus more so on that first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American. Before we get started today, as always, for pretty much the past really 2 months, really since we've been on the Civil Rights Acts, I'm going to go ahead and play again that Lyndon B. Johnson video where he's discussing not only the 1968 Civil Rights Act, but also the 1965 and 1964. And as always, definitely want you all to pay attention. Again, how they use the word Negro, how they'll mention our group within these proclamations, within these announcements. But when it comes to these documents, we are nowhere to be seen. We have never been recognized by this government. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and then we'll get into it.
Even while President Johnson talked to Chancellor Klaus about America's responsibility in a time of crisis and challenge, word came from Capitol Hill that Congress had passed and sent to the White House the Civil Rights Act of 1968. Included in the measure was a landmark open housing bill, which, when fully effective, would forbid discrimination in approximately 80% of all housing offered for rent or for sale in the United States.
I do not exaggerate when I say that the proudest moments of my presidency have been times such as this, when I have signed into law the promises of a century. I shall never forget that it is more than 100 years ago when Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. But it was a proclamation. It was not a fact. And in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we affirmed through law that men equal under God are also equal when they seek a job, when they go to get a meal in a restaurant, or when they seek lodging for the night in any state in the Union. And now the Negro families no longer suffer the humiliation of being turned away because of their race. In the Civil Rights Act of 1965, we affirmed through law for every citizen in this land the most basic right of democracy, the right of a citizen to vote in an election in his country. In the 5 states where the act had its greater impact, Negro voter registration has already more than doubled. Now with this bill, the voice of justice speaks again. It proclaims that fair housing for all human beings who live in this country is now a part of the American way of life. We all know that the roots of injustice run deep, but violence cannot redress a solitary wrong or remedy a single unfairness. And we just must put our shoulders together and put a stop to both. The time is here. Action must be now.
Right. So again, as we continue to play that, we'll continue to show the inconsistency between, again, what these different presidents, quote unquote presidents, will say, this government will say, that does not align with the documents that we've been reading or any document pertaining to our group. What they say is pertaining to our group. And before we kind of jump into our inventors and things of that nature, definitely wanted to go over some, not necessarily trending topics, but some topics that kind of stood out from this past week. Definitely, it was a little quiet when it came to this second quarter, as far as things happening to our group. Some things that kind of dropped on Monday of last week. We had 2 officers, pretty much one get promoted for killing our one of our people. That was the officer that killed and shot Breonna Taylor. He actually got rehired in Carroll County. Not sure if that is a county within Louisville or if that is a county that pertains to Louisville, but actually got promoted to a sheriff deputy. Then we also had, I believe, Kim Potter. She was released from jail from her, I guess it was a 2-year sentence that she was serving. She only served basically 16 months and now is out on pretty much probation. So we got those 2 things coming down the line. And then, of course, if you all saw pretty much the clip art of the video, we had the woman who pretty much lied on Emmett Till, got him killed, passed away as well. So we have these 3 things that just came down within the past week. Again, just continuing to show our status underneath this government, and really just want to, kind of talk about that. Definitely chime in the chat if you your thoughts as well. But I'm gonna pass it off to you, Chief Quietwater, kind of get your feedback on that.
Yeah, I think it's pitiful for us to just be silent and to be quiet in regards to the 2 officers that was rehired and one let out of prison. Again, as we say every week, it's just a slap in our face. And I just think that our energy is just misdirected towards the wrong thing in regards to what we pay attention to. I'm quite sure the majority of us probably did not even know that. The majority of us probably don't even care. You know what I'm saying? But it really speaks for what they're doing to prove to us in our face and just show us that we are just not protected in no kind of way, shape, or form. The death of the lady who killed Emmett Till, who lied on Emmett Till, I think that also is something that we just need to understand, like the thumbnail said. It's always these situations where it's because of them that they can kill our kids, they can kill our Black men, and steal our land and destroy our land, burn and flood out our lands, and nothing is done. And because of that, the Emmett Till situation, that was kind of the spark of the civil rights movement. So those are my thoughts. Definitely, those are my thoughts. I just think that is just us proving that we are where we are because of the lack of our attention to stuff and the knowledge.
A lot of great points you made there. One kind of parallel I want to draw to is from, we've seen within the past couple of weeks, one, they're not going to quote unquote kill their mother as far as this. So we have two European women. One, if you're remembering, that Tennessee 3 that did not get failed or removed from her position.
Right.
The two brothers did. So that's one example. Then we see this Kim Potter situation. Okay, we'll put you in quote unquote jail for 16 months, but then release you. Again, killing one of our brothers, another American man. And then we have this elderly European who, again, like you stated, pretty much sparked the whole civil rights by lying and getting another American, a child at that, killed for her lies. So we have three examples of European women and this government not holding their mother accountable, which would they, because that is their mother at the end of the day. So again, I think that's just something we need to do as far as being on one accord, one thought process, like, hey, yeah, we know what they did, but at the end of the day, this is our mother, this is my auntie, my grandma, my sister, my cousin. So damn what y'all think. I'm not finna hold her accountable or hang her, at the stake, especially not in the public eye. And I think that's one thing.
That's a good point.
And then in regards to your point too about, what we pay attention to, I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of, quote unquote Black media talking about, what's his name? Don Lemon or something getting fired.
Oh yeah, right. Who gives a damn?
Talk about a man getting unemployed when we have two people who the whole reason for the 2020, riots and uprisings was about get pretty much released and one gets promoted. So again, we've already shown that this system is infiltrated with militia. We have another example this quarter, beginning of this second quarter, of how they're releasing these individuals while and also promoting them within, their local military occupation known as police. So again, it's just like, okay, what more examples do we need as the masses? Not necessarily anybody on the chat. I know we all pretty much on one accord, but as a collective, it's like, damn, when you going to open your eyes? And I think a good measuring stick, you could say, for if, majority of our people has woke up will be, this next coming election. Are they going to go out and vote for these same crackers who they've already been put on notice in, what was that, September of 2022, that, hey, majority of these people that you're voting in are with militia. And that was just one. So, it's going to be.
And unfortunately, nobody, the majority of us don't know anything about that video. The majority of us don't know the importance of what that really means, but I'm sure towards the end of this year, people are going to be, getting ready to figure out who they're going to be voting for and get nothing in return, demand nothing, so that's just where we are, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's just an unfortunate thing, but we're gonna keep trucking. Everybody within the chat, salute to y'all, because we know y'all putting in the work. So again, like we always say, everybody ain't gonna make it, but we just keep putting that information out there to those that want to be prepared for what's about to come. But without further ado, I'll go ahead and jump into this week's American Inventor. I'm gonna share my screen. That's the wrong one. And this week we got a good one. I think I shared the same one. Okay. This is the Inventor. Hold on. Keep pulling up on my other screen. So for this week's American Inventor, we have Charles Orrin Bailiff, and he is credited for making the shampoo headrest. Wasn't a lot of information on this particular brother, born in 1866 though, in Michigan, and that patent number is 612008. And as I click on these images here, this is pretty much what would hold the individual's neck in place while getting the shampoo. So all of the ladies, sisters, aunties, whenever you're going, to your local hairdresser and you getting that shampoo and conditioner before you get your hairstyle done, this is accredited to an American inventor, someone of ourselves. So again, showing that ingenuity, showing things that we're still using today. But if you were to ask me if this person's family or lineage gets any, monetary compensation, residuals, or anything like that from it, I would say no. But this is the figure. So this here's the chair. This here is pretty much what would hold the neck. And then you have this little, I guess you could say, bucket that would hold the water in place when actually washing or shampooing the hair. And this was
I'm sorry, I was going to ask you the date.
October 11th, 1898. October 11th, 1898.
Okay. And the fact that the beauty industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry and we are the biggest consumers of the industry.
Correct. But this here was invented by an American. And next, I'll go ahead and pass it off to you for this week's Dr. Woodson quote.
Okay. Let me see here. I will do. Can you scroll down? I'll do 5. Actually, I'll do 6. Leadership is usually superimposed for the purpose of directing the course of the ostracized group along the same lines. This was accomplished during the days of slavery by restricting the assembly of Negroes to certain times and places and compelling them to meet in the presence of a stipulated number of the wisest and discreetest men of the community. These supervisors of the conduct of Negroes would prevent them from learning the truth, which might make them unruly or ambitious to become free. That is literally today what we're talking about in regards to where our energy and our attention is directed. We just not paying attention. We're not learning, and these quote unquote supervisors are doing a great job from preventing us of learning the truth, because they know that once we do, I think we don't understand that, once we do learn this information, how powerful we will be. They understand it. So I think that would be a good quote for this week.
No, definitely, I'm in alignment with that. And like you said, they're masters at, creating distractions and, creating a focus on something that's very minuscule when the big picture of things is in clear view, but they're doing a great job of hiding that. And they're supposed to be our quote unquote leaders or just, men of the community. And again, just as we stated, a few videos back, these are our enemies. Anybody who's calling you Black, African American, anything but who you are, while also promoting faith within the system, is an enemy.
Right.
And they have to be treated as such. As stated here, you need, boots on the ground. It's time to actually pull up on these individuals and get some straightening happening. So a great quote for this week. And I'll let you take the legal definitions and maroon historical points.
All right. Okay, legal definitions. Number 1, American, indigenous to America. Number 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number 6, education, an enlightening experience. Number 7, recovery, a return to a normal state of health, mind, or strength, the action or process of regaining possession of something lost or stolen or lost. And all right, the maroon historical points was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and strong defense came first. Number 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, Maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. And number 5, Maroons knew their European enemies' language, defenses, and plans.
Excellent, excellent. So without further ado, we'll jump back into where we left off on the 1968 Civil Rights Act. Share my screen. And yeah, I'll bring it over here. I believe we left off on page 19, if I'm not mistaken. I know
it was start at section D of
D.
801. D as in dog. Title 8 now. Section D. This one, persons. Yep.
Perfect. I'll start up here then.
Okay.
The person includes one or more individuals, corporations, partnerships, associations, labor organizations, legal representatives, mutual companies, joint stock companies, trusts, unincorporated organization, trustees in cases under Title 11 of the United States Code, receivers and fiduciaries. E, to rent includes to lease, to sublease, to let and otherwise to grant for a consideration the right to occupy premises not owned by the occupant. F, discriminatory housing practice means an act that is unlawful under section 804, 805, 806, or 818. G, state means any of the several states, the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, or any of the territories and possessions of the United States. H, handicap means with respect to a person, one, a physical or mental impairment which substantially limits one or more of such persons' major life activities. 2, a record of having such an impairment, or 3, being regarded as having such an impairment, but such term does not include current illegal use of or addiction to a controlled substance as defined in section 102 of the Controlled Substances Act, U.S. Code 21802. So before we jump back into those, we just reading pretty much the definitions of what's coming up underneath this here, which is Title 8, and that is pretty much the Fair Housing Act. Kind of starting off when we picked off last week. What a family includes is an individual or a single individual, and that's very key because like we spoke on pretty much last week, that's how we would get, what would be considered a single family home. Even that in its sense doesn't even sound right. It's almost a contradiction how you have a single yet family when it's only just one individual. But we're seeing here that is pretty much the legal definition of what a family is. It can include a single individual. So now we talk about, moving into the inner cities, getting put in what was called, projects and things of that nature. So this is pretty much what we're going to be reading or discussing as we continue. So I'll pick up here on I. We have a aggrieved person includes any person who, 1, claims to have been injured by a discriminatory housing practice or believes that such person will be injured by a discriminatory housing practice that is about to occur. Complainant means the person, including the secretary, who files a complaint under section 810. Family status means one or more individuals who have not attained the age of 18 years, being domiciled with a parent or another person having legal custody of such individual or individuals, or the designee of such parent or other person having such custody with the written permission of such parent or other person. So again, as we see here, family status can include one individual or multiple. So again, that familial status, going back to again what a family is, can include just a single individual, which is definitely going to be key and tells a lot just in regards to what we're dealing with today. And lastly, we hear the protections afforded against discrimination on the basis of familial status shall apply to any person who is pregnant or is in the process of securing legal custody of any individual who has not attained the age of 18 years. And that's very key as well. Just going back to what was like adoptions. That's what I'm thinking of reading that last statement. So we see a lot of LGBTQ adopting our children. Going back to something Chief Alligator brought up, when you have that legal status or legal custody, you're actually the legitimize basically the legal father. Now you can inherit anything that was supposed to be given to that child. That's just another thing that comes to mind from that. I'll kind of let you.
And I think this was just kind of strategically set up for sure. And I think that is going to be easier. All of this was just planned. Okay, we always figure things out towards the tail end when it's too late. And I think that they definitely had a master plan in place. And like you said, in regards to like the LGBTQ community who, can't reproduce, can't have kids. And so now here is a market for them to have a reason for there to be a population of kids who, can be adopted, through this legal process or whatever. So I think that's definitely key. We got to start getting on the front end of things rather than the tail end when it's too late, and things are just too far gone for us to try to make any changes. Like we got to go back so far just to catch up, basically.
Correct. You were speaking on that, it's kind of brought to mind again, just, not only just being able to inherit, it may just think, whatever monetary or whatever material things, but no, inherit what else? The land. These are the children of the land.
Exactly.
People. So if they're able to inherit what was supposed to be given to those children and they're adopting them now you can see, okay, well, I've adopted an American. So the land that was owed to said American is now mine as the legal guardian parent.
Exactly.
So you see how they're pretty much covering all their bases when it comes to our group. Just really stood out, like you said, this came out in '68, and we're seeing it, in fruition even till today when it comes to 2000. As well as when we were reading this document earlier, they even had plans that were allocating resources, I believe, up till 2027 or something like that.
Oh yeah, right. So they're forecasting, and we're already behind. It's 2023. We're already behind. So it's like they have their plan, their financial projections, what they're looking and what they're looking to get in return, and we don't even know the half of what they have going on right now.
Correct. Like Dr. Carter G. Woodson stated, we practice a lot of hindsight versus foresight.
Yeah.
As a group. I'll continue here. Number one, conciliation means the attempted resolution of issues raised by a complaint or by the investigation of such complaint through informal negotiations involving the aggrieved person, the respondent, and the secretary. Conciliation agreement means a written agreement setting forth the resolution of the issues in conciliation. Respondent means the person or other entity accused in a complaint of an unfair housing practice, and any other person or entity identified in the course of the investigation and notified as required with respect to respondents so identified under section 810A. Prevailing party has the same meaning as such term has in section 722 of the revised statute of the United States, U.S. Code 1988. Or U.S. Code 42, 1988. Effective dates of certain prohibitions. So we have section 803, subject to the provisions of subsection B and section 807, the prohibitions against discrimination in the sale or rental of housing set forth in in section 804 shall apply upon enactment of this title to dwellings owned or operated by the federal government. So all of this stuff will apply to any government housing. I think that is very key, and they're pretty much describing who will be put, or now it pretty much makes sense of who is put into federal government housing or government assisted housing, and how they have these certain definitions or certain statuses that you have to be up underneath in order to get those. So again, one, taking the man out of the home, and now government replaced the man as the father. And we also see underneath this title of, again, coming into the adoption, things of that nature, being able to inherit anything that comes from the children of this group. So upon enactment, dwellings provided in whole or in part with the aid of loans, advances, grants. So again, any type of resources coming from the federal government or contributions made by the federal government under agreements into after November 20th, 1962, unless payment due thereon has been made in full prior to the date of enactment of this title. Dwellings provided in whole or in part by loans, insured, guaranteed, or otherwise secured by the credit of the federal government under agreements entered into after November 20th, 1962, unless payment thereon has been made in full prior to the date of enactment of this title, provided that nothing contained in subparagraphs B and C of this section of this subsection shall be applicable to dwellings solely by virtue of the fact that they are subject to mortgages held by the FDIC or FSLIC institutions. That's key, because this is basically saying the bank.
Right.
Insurance. So if you, every time you go to your local bank or whatever it is, you'll see FDIC insured. Basically what that's going to say is, hey, we can pay you up to $250,000 if anything were to, be lost or confiscated. That's the max. So it's very interesting, again, showing that they have insurance policies on these dwellings as well. Dwellings provided by the development or the redevelopment of retail real property purchased, rented, or otherwise obtained from a state or local public agency receiving federal financial assistance for slum clearance or urban renewal with respect to such real property under loan or grant contracts entered into after November 20th, 1962, after December 1st, 1968, to all dwellings covered by paragraphs 1 and to all other dwellings except as exempted by subsection B, nothing in section 804 other than section or subsection C shall apply to any single family household or rented by an owner, provided that such private individual owner does not own more than 3 such single family houses at any one time, provided further that in case of the sale of any such single family home by a private individual owner not residing in such house at the time of such sale, or who was not the most recent resident of such house prior to such sale, the exemption granted by his subsection shall apply only with respect to one such sale within any 24-month period. So it looks like they're limiting those people who are, I would say, still receiving government assistance and providing them for families. They're limiting them to the amount of single family.
Okay, gotcha. So they're limiting the public, the private owners, basically. Wow. Okay, gotcha.
So even that's when you can see, okay, you'll have people with pretty much units, and then it seems like they're limiting them to the amount of units they could pretty much have.
Right.
Let me see, I want to speak on something up here in the dwellings, just again, them pretty much reiterating that anything that is given or getting federal assistance or government assistance is going to pretty much have to abide by all of these stipulations, regulations that we see here.
It's like they, just from all the documents that we've read, it's been consistent across the board in regards to they, sell you on, you have all of these rights and you have this and you that, but we're going to put all of these different stipulations on what you can and can't do. It was really not giving you any kind of power or flexibility in something that you own.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it kind of just brings to mind too as well, like, why would, again, they're promoting this as if this is strictly, or this particularly pertains to our group of people.
Right.
We've seen within the first 7 titles per se, that they were in reference to the Indian. Now, their housing, they're talking about, you know, the strict limitations, what can be deemed a family, what is deemed a dwelling underneath the financial assistance. So they, if you're thinking about, you know, the timeline, like you stated, like we pretty much stated earlier, you have Till gets killed. I believe that was 54, somewhere around that time, sparking off the Civil Rights Act, or the Civil Rights era. And you have constant killing, constant warring against our people. And it also means that constant loss of land, land ownership, businesses, things of that nature. Because again, at this time, we're seeing integration. So you're losing resources, which is the land. And now, okay, we'll come as the guys to help you if you all move to these dwellings that are federally assisted, which we control wholeheartedly. So we went from our own shit, having our own economy, to now being dependent on this government, with this, you know, Fair Housing Act.
And we fall for it. That's us. We fall for it every single time, you know. It's unfortunate.
And it's just crazy. And 3 years later, when we'll get to it, the money is taken out of the system with that ghost. So we lost the land, lost our businesses, our industries, lost our education because we was teaching ourselves, lost our housing because now we're underneath the federal government with these dwellings, or a majority of us, if you're moving into these inner cities. And the last straw is we're going to take the actual money, which is considered money around the world, which is the gold and silver. We're going to take that from you all. So like you stated earlier, this is all part of a plan that laid out years in advance, and is still being, you know, action on to this day.
Right.
Let me see, I think I've left off here. Provided further that such bona fide private individual owner does not own any interest in, nor is there owned or reserved on his behalf under any express or voluntary agreement, title to, or any right to all or a portion of the proceeds from the sale or rental of more than 3 single-family houses at any one time. Provided further that after December 31st, 1969, the sale or rental of any such single-family house shall be accepted from the application of this title only if such house is sold or rented without the use in any manner or of the sale or rental facilities or the sales or rental services of any real estate broker, agent, or salesman, or of such facilities or services of any person in the business of selling or renting dwellings, or of any employee or agent of any such broker, agent, salesman, or person, and without the publication, posting, or mailing after notice of any advertisement or written notice in violation of Section 804C of this title. So again, really putting a limit on those private individuals who will probably want to control these buildings and pretty much facilities in which the people are going to be living in. They're pretty much limiting them to a certain amount, just because, again, it looks like the government wants to have full control of what cannot happen.
And I'll interject there too, just because of my personal knowledge of real estate, you know, how a lot of these politicians and people that speak for us that are fighting for affordable housing in our neighborhoods and stuff like that. Well, really what affordable housing is under the guise that, yes, you can purchase a home. However, a lot of these cities and counties, they have what they call land banks. So basically you'll get this nice, beautiful, new constructed home on the county or the city's piece of land. So you own the physical home, but you don't own the land, of course, right? So when it's time for you to sell the property, you don't gain all the profit that you would otherwise exactly. A portion of it goes back to the city, or a portion of that equity goes back to the county. And so therefore, people are like, oh, home ownership, but they don't understand is that you're not gaining what you would gain if you didn't go through that particular program, of affordable housing. So if you notice that that's one of the things that they speak about when they speak about what they can do for us, have more affordable housings in the cities and things like that. But it's just all a game. And this shows exactly, they're just doing it on another scale.
It was never.
But it's the same thing.
There's never really true ownership or anything like that. Kind of remind me of what's that, the Ray Kroc dude from McDonald's, how he was going around buying the land and having the McDonald's establishments built on that land. And of course, as the property value went up, not really worried about the McDonald's, but the land value, that he actually purchased, that is what caused, him. So that kind of just, reminded me of that. So that's what the actual counties and things are doing. They're purchasing these lands, building these houses. So they're getting tenfold anyway. They're getting money if you buy it or not. They get money from the federal government.
Exactly.
And you get money on top of it. If you purchase it, if you sell it, we're going to get a portion of it.
And again, we fall for it. Right. Yeah. Man. You want me to pick up?
Yeah, you can pick up here. I think, but nothing.
Okay, but nothing in this proviso shall prohibit the use of attorneys, escrow agents, abstractors, title companies, and other such professional assistants as necessary to perfect or transfer the title. Or 2, rooms or units in the dwellings containing living quarters occupied or intended to be occupied by no more than 4 families living independently of each other. If the owner actually maintains and occupies one of such units, such living quarters as his residence. For the purpose of subsection B, a person shall be deemed to be in the business of selling or renting dwellings if he has, within the preceding 12 months, participated as principal in 3 or more transactions involving the sale or rental of any dwelling or any interest therein. Number 2, he has, within the preceding 12 months, participated as an agent other than in the sale of his own personal residence in providing sales or rental facilities or sales or rental services in 2 or more transactions involving the sale or rental of any dwelling of any interest therein. He is the owner of any dwelling designed or intended for occupancy by or occupied by 5 or more families. So basically, again, just giving stipulations on what a private owner can or cannot do with the property.
Yeah, they're making a distinction of, you'll be deemed in the business of selling if you're characteristics. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Discrimination in the sale or rental of housing and other prohibited practices. Section 804, as made applicable by Section 803 and except as an exempt by Sections 803B and 807, it shall be unlawful to refuse or sell or rent after the making of a bona fide offer, or to refuse to negotiate for the sale or rental of, or otherwise make unavailable or deny a dwelling to any person because of race, color, religion, sex, familial status, or national origin. B, to discriminate against any person in the terms, conditions, or privileges of sale or rental of a dwelling or in the provision of services or facilities in connection therewith because of race, color, religion, sex, familial status, or national origin. C, to make, print, or publish, or cause to be made, printed, or publish any notice, statement, or advertisement with respect to the sale or rental of a dwelling that indicates any preference, limitation, or discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin, or an intention to make any such preference, limitation, or discrimination. D, to represent any person because of, to represent to any person because of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin, that any dwelling is not available for inspection, sale, or rental when the such dwelling is in fact available. Again, just saying what you can or can't do in regards to this protected class of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, or familial status, or national origin. So E, for profit, to induce or attempt to induce any person to sell or rent any dwelling by representations regarding the entry or prospective entry into the neighborhood of a person or persons of a particular race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin. F1, to discriminate in the sale or rental or to otherwise make unavailable or deny a dwelling to any buyer or renter because of a handicap of that buyer or renter, a person residing in or intending to reside in that dwelling after it is so sold, rented, or made available. C, to any person associated with that buyer or renter. 2, to discriminate against any person in terms, conditions, or privileges of sale or rental of a dwelling or in provision of services or facilities in connection with such dwelling because of a handicap of that person, a person residing in or intending to reside in that dwelling after it is sold, rented, or made available, or any person associated with that person. Basically the same thing. It's just kind of going through what they can and can't do and who they can't not discriminate against. You have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to see this part here where it says, where does it say, inducing? Yeah, for profit, to induce or attempt to induce any person to sell or rent any dwelling by representation regarding the entry or prospective entry into the neighborhood. That sounds like straight up redlining to me.
Yeah, that's true.
Saying, hey, if you want to live in this particular neighborhood, you have to pay X amount versus European counterparts playing X amount, you know.
Right.
So again, it's all looks good on paper, but when we see it in reality and what actually occurred, nah, this didn't
Exactly.
no teeth or anything like that in regards to that. And also just the, you know, the low amount given to our group of people when it comes to our homes, especially if you just thinking about, you know, here in Atlanta, and pretty much gentrification all over the place, just another occupation. Yeah, we'll devalue, make sure that, you know, the neighborhoods look a certain way to bring the value down, but then we'll purchase it at its lowest. And then of course, once we get you all out, even if you don't want to sell, we're going to make something occur to where you have to making your home either, you know,
redistricting the school districts and raising the rent, the taxes, and
all types of bullshit they'll put, or saying that, hey, your home is, you know, unable to be lived in. Now I forget the word they use for that, but deeming your home is that, so now you have to move. So again, just all of this stuff that they do, but again, none of it is all of this stuff that they'll write up within these policies, but again, with actually in reality, none of this stuff actually occurs.
Right, exactly. For us.
For our group.
Okay. Let me see here. What did Number 2, to discriminate against any person in the terms, conditions, or privileges of sale or rental of a dwelling or in the provision of services or facilities in connection with such dwelling because of a handicap of that person, a person residing in or intending to reside in that dwelling after it is sold, rented, or made available, or any person associated with that person. 3, for purposes of this subsection, discrimination includes a refusal to permit at the expense of the handicapped person reasonable modifications of any existing premises occupied or to be occupied by such persons if such modifications may be necessary to afford such person full enjoyment of the premises, except that In the case of a rental, the landlord may, where it is reasonable to do so, condition permission for a modification or the renter agreeing to restore the interior of the premises to the condition that existed before modification. Reasonable wear and tear accepted. Okay. So that's basically, if you're handicapped, that the landlord or the person who owns it has to make reasonable modifications to the property to make it enjoyable to that person, or usable rather.
It says here that landlord has the ability. So I guess going back to like that private individual, private sales, in the business of having these properties, they can pretty much determine if it is reasonable, or they can actually request that whoever the tenant is say, okay, we'll allow you to, put in this modification, but you'll be liable for returning it back to its normal look, its normal status.
Right.
I think that's key.
Okay. B, a refusal to make reasonable accommodations in rules, policies, practices, or services when such accommodations may be necessary to afford such person equal opportunity to use and enjoy a dwelling, or in connection with the design and construction of covered multifamily dwellings for the first occupancy after the date that is 30 months after the date of enactment of the Fair Housing Amendment Act of 1988, a failure to design and construct those dwellings in such a manner that the public use and common use portions of the dwelling are readily accessible to and usable by handicapped persons. All the doors designed to allow passage into and within all premises within such dwelling are sufficiently wide to allow passage by handicapped persons in wheelchairs. All premises within such dwellings contain the following features of adaptive design: an accessible route into and through the dwelling, light switches, electrical outlets, thermostats, and other environmental controls in accessible locations, reinforcement in bathroom walls to allow later installation of grab bars, and usable kitchen and bathroom such that an individual in a wheelchair can maneuver about the space. So basically, this is, again, after 1988, properties had to be conformed to be able to accommodate handicapped persons in wheelchairs, basically. Okay. Number 4, compliance with the appropriate requirements of the American National Standard for Buildings and Facilities, providing accessible and usability for physically handicapped people, commonly cited as ANSI A117.1, suffices to satisfy the requirements of paragraph 3C III. 5A, if a state or a unit of general local government has incorporated into its laws the requirements set forth in paragraph 3C, compliance with such laws shall be deemed to satisfy the requirements of that paragraph. B, a state or a unit of the general local government may review and approve newly constructed covered multifamily dwellings for the purpose of making determinations as to whether the design and construction requirements of the paragraph 3C are met. So basically, they just give the state or the local government the authority to go in to inspect these buildings and properties of multifamily units to make sure that they are adhering to the standards for the handicap. C, the secretary shall encourage but may not require state and units of local government to include in their existing procedures for the review and approval of newly constructed covered multifamily dwellings, determinations as to whether the design and construction of such dwellings are consistent with paragraph 3C, and shall provide technical assistance to state and units of local government and other persons to implement the requirements of paragraph 3C. D, nothing in this title shall be construed to require the secretary to review or approve the plans, design, or construction of all covered multi-family dwellings to determine whether design and construction of such dwellings are consistent with the requirements of paragraph 3C. What is that saying? That the secretary basically don't have the ultimate authority to review and approve the plans.
Right, so basically, it sounded like, you don't have to get approval from the secretary, for your plan. So basically, all of this shit can be not within those dwellings, basically. It's not gonna be oversight, or approved prior to the creation or construction of these buildings. So it's kind of like
Gotcha.
an escape clause.
As always. Okay, 6A, nothing in paragraph 5 shall be construed to affect the authority and responsibility of the secretary or a state or local public agency certified pursuant to section 810 F3 of this act to receive and process complaints or otherwise engage in enforcement activities under this title.
They'll be able to process complaints and things of that nature, as far as
Right.
as far as the approval. Nah, so it can go on for years without it being done, because again, they all are pretty much in control of those complaints and actually enforcing if something needs to be done. So if one of us
Right.
complain, that'll probably be on the back burner for years until
Right.
stop complaining.
Mm-hmm.
We probably stop right there.
Okay.
So we pick up section 805. But yeah, definitely a good build. Again, just highlighting and showing the timeline pretty much of how our group was pretty much tricked into these civil rights acts, as far as, you know, fighting for these things that have nothing to do with us. Because again, whatever we just read, or what we just read rather, had nothing specific to our group. Again, thinking about this time, this is pretty much for the world. So again, having these multiple people from different countries come in and have, you know, fair housing. This is pretty much what they're promoting. They already promoted that, hey, you'll be able to vote. You'll be, you know, turned away at your local restaurant or your local motels, if you were to come here. And now you'll have housing. You'll have housing. So we're just seeing the play, and how it affected our group in particular by not being recognized specifically within any of these documents.
And the fact how detailed they are, you know, in regards to how they break everything down into the subsections and subsections of the subsection. But again, it's nothing that favors for us, you know. Like we always point out that they can be detailed when they want to be detailed. But when it comes to us, there's nothing specific for us to be protected under.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, just some further documents to really, again, pull up on all these individuals who are calling us these different reclassification terms, saying that these things, you know, are exclusively or pertain to our group, and actually start checking, hey, why are you calling us, you know, the Black, the African American?
Right.
And seeing if they're doing it. I mean, pretty much, if they're going to be talking about these documents, I would hope that they've at least read them, so that at least would make it clear for us that, hey, you are the enemy, because you're reading these documents and you see that it has nothing to do with an African American, a Black, you know, nothing of those sorts, but you're continuously trying to promote these as that. And let's just, you know, again, have a intellectual war with them and see exactly what's going on, because reading these documents and they say nothing about our group, yet they're always promoted as if they're for our group. But yeah, just another example, page 24 of this, and we'll continue to walk down this document.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody in the chat. It was just two of us tonight, so we were kind of tag teaming.
Yeah, just two of us. Definitely shout out to everybody in the chat. This link to the document should be provided. If not now, then definitely once we go ahead and upload. But again, yeah, shout out to y'all for, you know, coming in class with us, man, breaking down these documents.
All right, y'all have a good one. What do I do? Let's see. Okay.
Okay.